So you want or need waterproof? This bag is waterproof.
Alright, before I go into the waterproofness of this backpack, let's cover a couple of things first. First and foremost, please keep in mind with all of my reviews, and I feel like I have to tell this because there were some recent comments that I'm a little bit too nitpicky. I intentionally am very nitpicking in all of my reviews. I will intentionally show you all of the flaws, no matter how nitpicking they might be. Some of those might apply to you, some of those don't. But I feel like it is important that you know all of the flaws that I was able to find, and you can consider for yourself if those flaws and those negatives, those trade-offs, those drawbacks apply to your use case or not. And that way you can better evaluate if this product is for you or not. Because if I only tell you the positives, you basically can go to the website, check out the feature page, and then you already know all of the positives, right? So for me, it's more important to show you the negatives, no matter how nitpicking they might be. Next up, waterproof versus water resistant. With so many products, it doesn't matter if it's a bag or anything else. Many people and brands are very quickly to say that something is waterproof. And while that might be true to some of the fabrics or some of the zippers, that is not always the case. Waterproof, to me at least, or from the definition of the word itself, means that nothing can get inside that product. You can say that the fabric is waterproof, so no water can penetrate the fabric. You can potentially say that a zipper is waterproof, potentially. But if you don't close up the zipper properly, maybe it's a dual zipper where they meet up like this and there is a small little gap, water can still penetrate that small gap. Stitching is the same thing. If you have a waterproof material, you have areas that are stitched together, and with enough exposure of water and maybe pressure from maybe winds, for example, water can still kind of sip through those stitchings and get inside that bag. So, in my humble opinion, most bags are not waterproof. They are weather resistant. They are water resistant to some degree, but if you walk with them long enough in a monsoon storm, for example, then water can still get inside. That is very important for me to say. It's the same thing, for example, I'm a motorcycle rider. There are sometimes clothings that say, oh, this is waterproof or very water resistant. And if you ride long enough in the rain, you still can feel wet because some water will get through some areas eventually. So that is very important and very important distinguishing feature. I don't know. But I can definitely say that this is waterproof, and I will get to that in the next segment. So with that out of the way, this is the Expedition Unit Project 8020, a roll top backpack with a capacity of 23 liters or when it's fully expanded, about 28 liters. However, keep in mind, if you don't roll this up and extend it a little bit, it's not waterproof anymore, because to be waterproof, you need to roll it up. And that is very important. So I would rather consider this a 23 liter backpack and consider the expandability only a feature if you really need it. But if you want to retain as much waterproofness as possible, then you need to kind of roll it up as properly as possible to make sure it is waterproof. Tighten this, and then you can already see there is some air in here, and I push this and almost nothing of the air gets out. You need to roll it up properly to have the waterproof features of this bag, and that is a good segue into the negatives. Let's start with the negatives and then go into the positives. The negatives. This, as I said, to have that expandability, you will kind of lose the waterproof features because, as I said, you will need to roll it up as tightly and as properly as possible to make sure nothing gets inside. Next up, to ensure that this is as tightly closed as possible, there is a Velcro here on top. This is a pro in terms of making sure everything is safe, but a huge negative in terms of clothing. If you have something out of wool, for example, my wool jacket here, or a wool sweater, I had a wool sweater yesterday on, you will always kind of get stuck on the Velcro. And this is a very tough Velcro in a way that it's holding this shut as securely and properly as possible. But it also means that if you have a wool sweater, you will get stuck onto this. And I almost destroyed my wool sweater yesterday. And that is really important for you to know. If you wear delicate clothing, don't use this, or be very, very careful not to touch this, because your clothing will get either stuck on this and then potentially destroyed, or at least all of the rubbing will start creating some pilling on your clothing. So that is very important. Next up, as I said, stitching will introduce areas where water can get inside. No matter how good a fabric might be, stitching will introduce an area of risk for water to get inside. That is why this is some form of, I don't know what the exact term is, but it is kind of welded or bonded, glued together. This also means the inside, there is not a lot of organization. There is some. There's a laptop slot and 2 other slots where you can kind of store stuff. But in general, this is a huge kind of storage area with not a lot of organization. So everything that you put inside is just rambling around. So if you have small items, there is a huge potential that you will need to search for it. And like all of the roll top and top loading backpacks, this is a giant hole. So you will kind of need to find stuff a little bit more difficult inside. I chose this gray fabric because A, I want to be visible when I'm on my motorcycle. B, I just love other colors than black. But this also means that the gray, because there is no interior lining, the fabric outside is basically the fabric inside, you have a brighter inner lining. So I would highly recommend, if you consider this backpack, don't get the black one, because it will be very dark inside. And again, because you cannot introduce that much stitching, there is not a lot of padding. There is like a bottom padding, but it's very thin. The laptop compartment, fortunately, is suspended. But again, everything else is not padded. So if you have any fragile items inside, be very careful not to drop the bag on the ground, but also be careful, for example, if you are in a subway, if people run against you, bump against you, there is nothing to protect your fragile items inside. So that is definitely something to keep in mind. You have a small little pocket here on the outside for quick access. This is not that big, but it's good enough maybe for your wallet or anything that you really need to grab quickly. Next up, while you have a great side handle, you only have a very flimsy top handle. This is, yeah, it's not great. It will dig into your hands. I would have loved a similar grab handle that is on the side, have one here on the top as well. The shoulder straps are okay. They are thin and they don't get in your way. They are wide, so they distribute the weight on your shoulders quite well. I can see that some of you might want a little bit more padding with the shoulder straps though. The back panel is very well padded, so it's comfortable, but keep in mind, if you consider everything in this bag, and this is one of the parts where it gets a little bit nitpicking, but I want to mention this. If you consider this a bag that is waterproof, and it definitely is, so you probably will go out with this in a lot of rain. This back panel will obviously soak up the water quite a lot and will probably have a hard time drying quickly. So imagine you're going to the office and you think, oh, I have a waterproof backpack. I can ride with my bicycle in the rain and then be in the office. Keep in mind, this will be soaked wet, and yeah, I'm not sure if that's so great in the office, so it will kind of drizzle or dribble water when it's on your desk. Just to keep in mind, again, this is nitpicking, but I just wanted to mention this. If you consider this using to commute with your bicycle or motorcycle in the rain because you know that everything is waterproof, I think for those situations it's great, but you will need to keep in mind that this back panel will soak up the water quite well. Next up, you have these buckles here to kind of close it up like this. I feel like this is very ugly. Personally, I think this would ensure that this is even more waterproof, but I feel like this is a little bit ugly because once you do it like this, you roll it up and you kind of fold it up to the side, you definitely 100% can ensure that this is waterproof. I think for expedition, this is great. This is also then a makeshift grab handle. But for day-to-day use, just to make it look a little bit better, I prefer rolling it up like this and using this buckle. Again, from a feature standpoint, this is great to kind of secure it even more like this, but I feel like this looks a little bit ugly. Again, nitpicking, your mileage might vary, but I definitely wanted to mention this. Yeah, those were all of the negatives. As you've seen, it's not a lot. It's more in terms of how you pack it out. But now let's get to the positives, because I do think this is an amazing backpack.
Oh, I'm just editing this video and I totally forgot that I think the outfit in this A-roll is pretty cool. And as some of you might know, I really do like fashion, and some of you also have been asking about the clothing that I have been wearing in my previous or past videos. So I introduced this little segment that is called Stylecheck, and yeah, there you can kind of see what I have been wearing in this video.
Alright, for this test I obviously will put something into the bag where you can kind of see that it is dry. So this is just a roll of paper towels, and I'll put that in here, close up the bag properly, and then we're going to start the test. So really important, roll it up properly so it can actually work. For extra security, you could kind of do it like this. Let's do it as well. So like so. Now the bag is airtightly secured, so no water will get inside. Now let's start the test. While I talk about the positives, let's do a little bit of a longer water spraying test. Obviously not that long, so I don't waste too much water, and it probably will be quite loud on the mic. So let's start the water spraying while I talk about some of the positives. And I probably need to talk a little bit louder. And obviously one of the main positives is obviously that this is not only incredibly well made, but also waterproof. Everything that is inside will be safe from getting wet. And as I've been mentioning in the previous part, I feel like many bags kind of claim to be extremely water resistant. Not many claim that they're waterproof. They always say they're water resistant, but as I always mention, there are always some ways that water can get inside, either through seams or the bag not being closed properly, or while the bags have really good fabrics, there are still some ingress points where water could get inside. So most bags, while they claim to be very water resistant, none of them are waterproof, and this is waterproof. And as I said, also very well made. I really like the choice of materials, and it looks good, and it really, the name is the game basically. This is an expedition unit bag, so I'm very sure that this can hold up a really rough expedition. And more importantly, it is very easy to clean. So this is, for me personally, a really important feature. So now let me just switch off the water because I don't want to waste water. And now let's look inside, make sure that none of the water that is here on the outside kind of flows inside. And the paper towels are dry. So as you can tell, this is a big testament, and I also have some of my drone equipment in here, so just to prove a point that everything inside is dry. And I honestly would trust this bag to keep everything dry. Obviously, as I said in the beginning, this back panel will eventually soak up some water, but that is basically something that you need to keep in mind. There are a lot of downsides in terms of how the bag is laid out. As I said, it is a big hole basically with not that much organization. So you put all of your stuff inside and they, in air quotes, somehow disappear inside. So no organization. But I feel like that is totally okay because everything that is inside will be protected from the elements, not from bumps or the bag being dropped accidentally. So if you have fragile equipment in there, while it is protected from water, from rain, from dirt, and obviously if it protects you from water, you can be rest assured if you, for example, need to take it on the expedition to the desert or to the beach, for example, all of your stuff will be protected from dust and dirt as well. So that is a huge benefit. But again, not padded. So everything that is fragile should be inside some compartments. And I do like to pack modular anyway. Maybe check out the video up here where I kind of talk about packing modular. That is very important to keep in mind and to have that in your pack plan if you want to carry fragile equipment. And more importantly, also the bottom is not padded. So don't accidentally drop it to the ground. But because this is waterproof, I feel like that is totally fine. I can totally live with those trade-offs if I know I'm getting into an expedition, as the name implies, and I need to protect it from elements like water, rain, dirt, those elements basically. And for me, I feel like this bag, and specifically this bag, and I mean this in terms of not only the model but also the color. This bright gray and the waterproof protection makes this my perfect motorcycle bag. I will use this probably a lot in the winter or in autumn when it starts raining or when there is a high likeliness of me getting into rain. I will use that bag on the motorcycle, and because it is gray. For example, the Black Amber WPRT waterproof roll top bag. That is also waterproof. However, that is a black bag that is very difficult to see on a motorcycle. And for me, on a motorcycle, it's really important to increase visibility as much as possible, especially in autumn and winter. And having this gray color makes me more likely to be seen by other people on the road. So for me, this version, gray, and the waterproof feature makes this the perfect motorcycle bag. Moreover, this bag is incredibly comfortable to carry. The wide shoulder straps are really good on my shoulders, even with motorcycle protection inside my jacket. So with that in mind, I think this is again a perfect bag for motorcycle riding, but also if you want to protect your gear for the elements. You probably have noticed I didn't mention that many positives besides durability and waterproofness and comfort. However, I feel like the waterproof feature is such a strong feature that in my humble opinion, all of the negatives are heavily outweighed by that feature alone. And I feel like this is an incredible, unique feature. Yes, there are other bags like Ortlieb that have these dry bag features. And again, the Black Amber waterproof roll top, which I have to admit has a couple of more features that are very beneficial, but it is, as I said, a black bag and very difficult to see. So for me, this is still a very unique option if you need waterproofing. The Ortlieb are waterproof as well, but I feel like they don't look that great. So this looks amazing, this is waterproof, it is very well made and it's comfortable. Only 3 or 3.5 positives, but those positives blow out the negatives out of the water. That is what I wanted to say. They heavily outweigh the negatives or the trade-offs. So if you are looking for waterproof bag, you were looking at the Ortlieb bags and were thinking, those are a little bit too bicycle-centric and not that cool looking. Or you were looking at the Black Amber waterproof roll top and you thought to yourself, I don't want to have that huge black bag on my back when I'm walking around or when I'm on bicycle or motorcycle. I think this is an incredibly amazing, valid option for all of you who want or need a waterproof bag. By the way, all of the items mentioned in this video, so the bag or any of the tidbits, are mentioned in the description below. Those are affiliate links. With those you won't pay more, but you will support this channel with a small kickback of that sale. And if you do so, thank you very much. So again, if you are looking for a waterproof bag that is also good looking, and you maybe want to use on a motorcycle, but not necessarily only on a motorcycle, you just want waterproofness that looks good, then I think the Expedition Unit 8020 backpack is definitely for you. As long as you keep in mind that there is an organization. So maybe also check out a couple of items that you can utilize to do some modular packing. And if you have some camera gear, don't forget to subscribe, because I will have a camera bag setup that you can also put inside that could be very interesting to you as well, so don't forget to subscribe. So let me know in the comment section below, do you need waterproof bags, and if so, why? Comment below. And if you want to see probably the Black Amber waterproof roll top backpack review, check out the video up here. YouTube thinks that you like the video down here, and don't forget to subscribe by clicking the button up here. I see you in the next video. Thank you very much.